Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
How are you? How are you?
Fine.
Fine, sir.
Hmm? सब लोग टायर्ड हो गया क्या?
No, sir.
We will wait for others to come for 2 minutes, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Sure, sir.
So I think we can start. Is everyone there? So our topic today is web application security. So uh, I think most of us know what is web application security. Like there are many flaws in the web application, and that is being exploited by the hackers. So, when we dive deep into the web application security, we must know the basics first. So, in this lecture, we'll be dealing mainly with the web basics. How is the mechanism? How is the architecture? Everything we will study the basics. Once you know the basics, you can deep dive into the security part. Okay, so the basic elements when it comes to web application, the basic elements of communication. This includes a message, it includes the sender, it includes the receiver, the medium, and the protocol. Okay, though, so the message which is being sent have a particular format. Then the sender and receiver. Sender usually, the sender and receiver, that can be based on the condition. It depends. Like if it is a communication, like if you are browsing, in case of web application, the sender will be the client and the receiver will be the server. And when the information is being responded, the sender will be the server and the receiver will be the client. And the medium, uh, The medium can be like internet, that is a medium, and the protocol, the based on the message that we sent, the protocol also differs, like HTTPS, FTP. That we will study in detail. Okay. The first thing that we must know when we talk about domain, when we talk about web application, is the domain name system. So this is the basics. How is the networking happening? That we must know first. So when we talk about domain name system, you must know what is a URL. What all does a URL includes. So this is not much important for you, but you must have an idea. So that's why I am giving you a small idea about this. Okay. Then when we talk about URL, Uniform Resource Locator. So for our system, we give if we want to search for something, we type the URL www.google.com, like that, anything. So here I have given an example, drive.google.com. In this, drive is the subdomain, like subdomain of Google. Google is the main domain, and .com. .com is the root name. So Google, this top level, this is the authoritative name that we say, authoritative name, and this authoritative Google have many subdomains that you know. Google Doc is there, Google Drive. Uh, there are many. Google Sheet is there. So there are various things. So what happens is that when we browse, the what the web application or the what the system does is that it will first the browser will check our cache memory first. Like our cache memory have the cookies, which includes like the whatever we have done earlier, the history it is there. So our browser itself checks for that and gives immediate result. But in some cases we might be searching for new websites. So in that case it won't be present in our browser. So our browser asks our operating system to check for it. So what operating system does is that there will be internet providers. So the operating system will communicate with internet providers, and hence it will reach a default DNS server. This is the default DNS server that our operating system communicate. Then this DNS server checks for whether this Google drive.google.com. First, it will check for the authoritative name, whether authoritative name is there or not. DNS server will check for that. So if that it is not there, what default DNS server will do is that it will send the request to top level domain name server. This top level domain name server will check for the uh, authoritative name. If they find, it will give the request back to DNS server, and uh, hence back to our system. But if we are not getting the that under our top level domain server, then it will go to the authoritative name server. It contains almost all the authoritative names. So usually we must be getting our result from here itself. But in some cases it won't be available at that place also. So there will be a root name server, where root name server, it will check for the whether it is .com. You can see .au, everything. For Pakistan it is .pk. So such root names are there. So it will search for the root names and it will send it back to DNS server. That is our default DNS server. Then it will go back to our system. So this is what happens when we request. But the thing is, like, we see it in the form of names, but when the communication occurs, it occurs as IP address. Like, it turns into IP address, and that way they check. So it is not easy for us to remember the numbers. So we remember in the form of alphabets. So when I told about sending messages, so what happens is that there is a three-way handshake that is occurring. That is three-way handshake. SYN, SYN ACK and ACK. Like when we send a message, there is a SYN message that goes, and once the server replies, then it gets acknowledged. That we say it gets acknowledged, and it send a SYN ACK uh, message to our client. Then again back, this client will send the acknowledgement message to server. That's how the three-way handshake occurs when we communicate. And there are various ways that we protect or secure our web applications, because we know that endpoint security, you must know endpoint security. In endpoint security, what happens is that our whatever request goes, it goes through internet and reach back to the client. So this network can be uh, hacked by anyone. So who knows well about networking, they can hack. So we must secure our endpoint. Endpoint here means whichever laptop, whichever mobile that we use. So in endpoint, what we do is that we use firewall usually. Like firewall, what it does, firewall usually helps in IP filtering, then URL filtering. So this is what firewall does. But as the scenario gets more and more complicated, like earlier, people knew less about system, computer, and all. Now the people know more and more. So you must have noticed that cyber attacks are increased. So we must improve the firewall system. So nowadays, the new generation firewalls, we say, new generation firewalls have many other features. This is I am telling to you for just for understanding, like the present scenario, how what is the endpoint security that is occurring. Because in a networking world, we must be safe. So for that, the new things that occurred, new changes, new technologies that came are the new generation firewalls. The new generation firewalls, other than IP filtering and URL filtering, they also have intrusion prevention system, intrusion detection system, and also they have threat intelligence capabilities. Like they give us a message if there is some threat is there, or there is a behavior analysis engines that is available. Like based on the behavior of the website, we can the firewall gives the warnings. And there is one more complicated, not complicated, one more important new generation technology that is there is that deep packet inspection. In deep packet inspection, the SSL, such protocols are being checked. And another thing is that nowadays firewalls have anti-DOS features. Like we know there is DDoS attacks that occurs frequently nowadays. So to counter DDoS attacks, there is anti-DOS in firewalls. So that's all about domain name system. Now we will move on to our web basics. So in we know the web application consists of web page, and this web page, the that we see, web page is whatever that we see when we open a browser. This web page is made with the help of HTML. HTML is hypertext markup language. As I told, HTML is responsible for the look and feel of the web page. Like the web page, how much ever graphically it is superb. It is with the help of HTML. And the general syntax for HTML is there is a tag. There are two tags, and in between there will be content. For example, I can say like uh, HTML file starts with HTML and ends with HTML. This is how HTML will start, and this will be the ending syntax. So in between, we will add the contents. So like we had the header, then we had the titles in between, then we add the body. So such things are being added. So that is how we make the uh, front end. So like I can give you one example, like we can give the heading like then in heading there will be title coming. So we open title and we type whatever type title is there. Hmm. Then what we do, we end the heading. Okay. So this will be the title of our web application. So whatever title we give, this is the title that oh sorry, I didn't end the title. Hmm. So this will be the title for the web application. It will be coming as our heading. So if we want to increase size, we can add the increase the size, like the size increased like H1. H1 will be the largest size, and there's a size till H6 usually. Okay, and these are the basics. I'm just giving you an idea so that uh, when we come to various attacks, you will know what is it. Hmm? So this is a then this is the syntax of hypertext markup language HTML. Then JavaScript. JavaScript is there are the whatever we see graphically is the front end. So it is made with HTML. The back end, whatever the functioning of the web page, it will be programmed with JavaScript. And the JavaScript usual syntax is script, फिर जो भी इसके बीच में ऐड करना है वो ऐड करेंगे. Like usually the common one we say is like alert, then we end like this. So this is a syntax which will give hello on the web application when we add this syntax. So this is the basics that you must know. Like JavaScript has such things, HTML has such things. आप लोग को वो देख के ही पता होना चाहिए कि ये ऐसा ऐसा है. ऐसा नहीं कि you must be very much proficient in it, but you must know at least what is it. Then if you are interested, you tell me. I'll give more detailed. Like you will know some more in depth so that you can understand what all are basic things are there in it. Like what as a web application security, you must know some more. So that I can teach you if you wish to. So the next thing is the servers. So as I told, we send, we search, and it passes through internet. The server checks for the information that we asked, and server gives it back. And there are various servers based on the request that we give. There are various servers, like web server is there, then database server is there, then there is file server, then there is mail server. Okay, then what actually web server involves is like the web applications. huh? So such that web applications are stored in web server. So there are various web servers like Apache, like Apache. Then there is Tomcat. These are web servers, and these web servers are usually made with PHP, Java, Python, and all. Then this web servers contains informations for protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, and all. Okay. Then comes the database server. In database server, usually there is datas. Like in this server, there will be datas arranged in tables. Like if there is a web application have lot of people who might have logged in. Such people's informations will be stored in this database server. And these are stored in MySQL format. Yeah, MS SQL is there. Then there is Postgre SQL and all. So these are various uh, programming languages where the database is served in the way stored. Then file server like for storing, for sharing, for publishing. There are many documents that we store. Such uh, informations are stored in file server, and examples are like FileZilla is one such server. Then there is logical logical talk. Then there is then there is various other. Then the mail server. Our mails are the water mails we send that are usually stored in various servers, and the main servers like HMail server, then Mercury Mail. These are some of the main servers. Then this, like, I want to ask you one thing. When we give request, we get various errors. Huh? So such errors देख के हम पता चल जाता है कि ये क्यों ऐसे हुआ है. Like you must have noted like 404, huh? 404 error when you browse something. So can anyone tell what does this mean? Anyone? Uh, Anyone can reply. What does a 404 error means?
Not found.
Uh, what is not found?
Page is not found in the web server.
Yeah. So I will make you familiar with some of the such errors so that आप लोग को देख के ही पता चलेगा कि ये सर्वर को ये इश्यू है. Okay, so 100 to 199, usually if any error is showing with number 100 to 119, it means that the information that you search is not there in the server. Okay, whichever server you checked, it is not there. Then the information from 200 to 299. Does anyone know? This you must know.
Uh, Sir, can you please repeat?
Uh, which one you want to repeat? You want to know?
What are you asking?
Actually, I asked you if the HTTP response में आप लोग को दिखा रहा है कि 200 to it is showing some value between 200 to 299.
200 is a okay successful message, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you have a successful access, you get the number between 200 to 299. So such things you can see when we see the HTTP response, like HTTP request. There is lot of things inside HTTP request. Like when we give a request, there will be a protocol attached to it. There will be the path of the page, and there are various things that will be attached to the HTTP, whichever request, whichever URL you type. So these things you can identify in burp suite. So I'm telling this because when you intercept something, a web application, by seeing these values, you can easily identify what is the issue. Okay. So then in 300 to 399, does anyone know? Huh? This you must be encountering when you do transactions. 300 to 399. Does anyone know? This is for,
Redirection?
yeah, this is for redirecting.
Yes.
Then 400 to 499.
Not found or forbidden.
Yeah, actually, this occurs usually if there is an error in the client side. Okay, usually in client side, and 500 to 599. This occurs when there is a error in server side. Okay. So you can this 400 to 499, 500 to 599, 300 to 399 are very important actually. Like by seeing the value itself, you can identify there is some error with server. Okay. Oh yeah, there is some error with client. So this is just for your knowledge. Okay. Then now we will move on to next topic, that is SQL injection. So SQL injection actually in now today I'll be giving you some idea what is SQL injection. Your basics about web application is done. If any doubt is there, you can ask me anything if you want to know. Actually, I hope you understood something. Like you must have got something new, or you must have refreshed your memory of what you have learned. I hope. Have you? So now I will move on to SQL injection. So SQL, before knowing SQL injection, you must know what is SQL. So in SQL injection, SQL, that is sequence structured query language. Okay, structured query language. It is a programming language that is used in database server. to store the data of particular web application. Like if you are logging into some into Facebook, so you will have to put your mail ID. You have to give the password. So in the database server, it is stored as tables. So these tables are accessed using SQL. Like for example, if you are logging into Facebook, so what happens is that when you type your mail ID and password, what happens in web application is that uh, from the programming side, it will select the mail ID, for example, mail ID like any mail ID, example.com. So it will search for example.com in the table, and then they will sorry, there is a mistake. Actually, when we give the mail ID and password, what happens is that they select the particular person from the particular table. Like there will be various table. Like for login, there will be particular table. For users ID, there will be particular table. So we will be like, for example, I'll show you. Uh, we will. What happens in the backend is they'll select the mail ID from table named login. This is just example, okay? When we type the mail ID and password, what happens is that so they will select what the application web application will select the mail ID from the table login, where the password will be so and so. Okay, so this is what happens when we search something. So if we are if we are able to bypass this, we can get the information about, and we can get the complete details of database. So what we does is that we try to give some conditions to the login in some conditions to the input, and hence result the result is being obtained. Like these are some conditions, like it is giving 1 equal to 1, or 1 or 1 means 1 is a true statement. So when we apply this in our input page, what the programming language does is that they check for whether it is true or not. Like what happens is that here we select mail ID and check whether the information given is true or not from the table. So this is a universal true that 1 is equal to 1. So we give the such we give such information, give such input, and we get the result. So that is what happens in SQL injection, so that we can get the complete information about the complete data present inside the server. So the other attack is XSS. XSS attack is actually injection of malicious code, malicious JavaScript into the input side of the web application. So what happens is that when we input some information or some JavaScript syntax like this one, so when we give this input, then the web application will give result for whatever we give the input. Like if we are giving this this syntax, it will give the web page will give a positive reply of hello in the dialog box. So what happens is that the hacker can put any malicious code into the input and get what he want. Like you when once you start browsing in your browser, and when once you open the browser, the hacker can take like session IDs, cookies from you once you start searching in the web page. Like there are two types of XSS. XSS is cross-site scripting, okay? So in cross-site scripting, what happens is that there is a client, there is a server. So once the client start browsing in a website, the hacker can either give the malicious code only to the victim, or it can affect the complete website. Whoever access the website will be affected. So the first case, what I told, the one when the only victim is affected, this reflect it is not non-persistent. Like in this, what happens is that the hacker sends a malicious link which contains the JavaScript malicious JavaScript code to the victim. So once the victim click on it, the hacker gets the complete details of the victim, like session ID or cookies. You know what you must know what is there inside the cookie or session ID. Like session ID or cookies involves our complete login details. So if the hacker gets the details, he can easily log in with those session IDs. So it is a very dangerous attack. It can even deface the website. Like in case of stored accesses, if the person injects some code into directly into the uh, website, and whoever access it will get affected. So that is stored. It is a persistent. Like in stored, the code gets stored in the database, and in reflective, it just affects the victim. So that is about cross-site scripting, and these are just basics. In the next class, we will see the practical side of SQL and XSS and all. So I hope you understood the general thing, what is happening there, general syntax, then what is the general architecture and mechanism that occurs in web application. I hope you understood, and we will deal more attacks in detail in the coming classes. So I hope everyone understood. Uh, Interns, did you understand? Are you able to
Yes,
catch?
sir.
I know it is easy, and as it is a late class, I tried little bit easy stuffs. Yeah, I wanted to ask you one thing. You know about networking, right? You guys must know something about networking. This is just a, fresh up, just freshening up your mind. You can reply. It's not related to any lecture, anything. It's just a general knowledge for you guys. So